You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. With us today, Wooley and Lila Sessums. They are just two members of the Swamp Witches. You're in the right place for some great stories.
This episode of the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Have you ever heard of the Swamp Witches? Say it slowly. The Swamp Witches. Well, here's your introduction. With us today, Wooley and Lila Sessums from the Swamp Witches. Welcome to the show. So as far as where to start, okay, let's start with the name and sort of the origins. If somebody were to walk up to you and they saw your hat, Lila, and said, Swamp Witch, what is that? How would you answer that question?
Well, I might get in trouble because I just submitted Swamp Witch to the Jockey Club for a name of a racehorse, and they told me I was offensive and in poor taste.
Okay.
But anyway, we...
So there's that.
I think we were... A lot of people in our little girls' deal would tell you different stuff.
Okay.
I think we would just come back from duck hunting, and we were sweeping the camp out, and Allison's husband said, y'all look like a bunch of swamp witches.
Okay.
Which is glad that he said witches.
Yeah, you may not have.
Not just one, but plural.
Correct.
Also, a whole group.
Yeah.
And that's really sort of the guts, isn't it? So for those listening that might not know, this is a group of friends, and you guys enjoy the outdoors together. How far does this go back?
I think I met Allison in the early 90s and started fox hunting with her. And then I bought a duck hunting trip with she and her husband, Jim. They have a place up at War Lake, outside of Clarksdale. And it just kind of grew from there. And then I moved to Clinton and met Susan Williams. And then Lee Bailey bought a horse from me, my first horse that I trained off the racetrack for a second job, and she fox hunted the horse. So Susan and Lee and Allison and I fox hunted together. And then we met Lynn, moved to Flora with her family. Not real sure how we met her. But we all found out we had the love of the outdoors, and in 1998, I think, was our first full duck hunt together.
Okay. And it didn't actually start as duck hunting. It was fox hunting and other things initially?
Correct. I think it all started through horses.
Through horses.
Well, and that I went and duck hunted with her in Clarksdale.
Okay. And Julie, when did you meet the group and become a part of the Swamp Witches?
It's funny that Lila started her story with Allison, because that's exactly where my story with them starts. Is for 20-something years, literally people would say to me, do you know Allison Cruz? And when I got to know Allison Cruz, she said people were saying the same thing to her. Do you know Julie Wooley? And we actually have often said that we're glad we didn't know each other back in those days, because we may have been a little bit like matches and gasoline. But I met her through riding horses. And then things just progressed from there. She's like, I've got this group of friends you might enjoy spending time with. And so I think I duck hunted with y'all first in 2016 or 2017, one or the other. It hadn't been a real long time.
So you mentioned for you, like Origins 2016, for you, Lila, all the way back in the 90s. I was mentioning to you before we talked, I saw an article about your group in the New York Times, and I think that went back to maybe around 2009. Mm-hmm. So the journey for you guys as friends, hunting together, and then sort of, becoming known as a group and as the Swamp Witches, and seeing your picture in the New York Times. What's this journey been like as a group and for you?
Our friendship has I don't know how to explain it. It's the New York Times. Wow, that guy I don't think he'd ever been in a canoe before. And I had my four-wheeler, and I had my baby seat on the four-wheeler with sunflowers.
Okay.
And he's like, what is this red plastic seat? Now it's got guns on it, and and tote bags, and and we go flying out there with this guy going, who am I getting? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And then we have him walking out in the dark in the water, but it's just always, it's just so much fun getting together and doing different stuff together, and we love all sorts of stuff about it. And
Sure.
It's interesting for a group of women, I think, especially, to form such an interesting bond that lasts the test of time. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really kind of is. I mean, because, friends come and friends go, and y'all have been really a cohesive group for a lot of years.
Now, as far as does everyone live close together? Do you travel to get together? Where are you based?
We're Clinton, Canton, Madison, Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And we have a witch that passed away 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And she lived in Batesville.
When people hear you guys, either talking to each other or talking about the group, and you describe it and you use the name, do you ever get odd reactions? People go, "What now? The what again?"
Oh, all the time. Constantly.
Last night in my kitchen or in our house, my wife, she was making some soup and had like a blender going or something, and I was telling her who I was going to talk to today, and I said, in the morning we're going to talk to, and then I said in the afternoon we're talking to the swamp witches, and she turned it off and went, "The what? Say that again." So you get that a good bit.
Oh,
the
yeah.
what?
That's funny.
Why duck hunting?
I grew up in South Louisiana duck hunting with my family.
Okay.
We had a duck camp south of Jennings in Grand Lake. It's called the Bismarck, and we went out in mud boats. I loved it. I especially loved the dog, and I just took to it. I would go out when the parents wouldn't go out, and the Cajun guy would be like, "Why is this child wanting to go out? It is 30 below zero and sleeting, and we are cracking ice, and the dog is froze up, the guns are froze up, and I'm out in front of the P-row whacking the ice." It's an addiction for me. I love everything about it.
And for you, Julie?
So for me, I mean, I grew up in Alabama and Georgia, but I was just never really given the opportunity to hunt. The boys that I grew up with hunted, and the dads, but I was never really invited. And then I guess my husband started hunting in the late 1990s, got really in earnest, started hunting, and then I was like, well, I kind of want to go. And the main thing that I remember about being invited to go, besides the fact that he bought me 1990s clothing that was supposed to be super warm, I almost froze to death. But the most intriguing thing to me was watching my dog retrieve the ducks. And I think that every one of us would agree that watching the dog work is one of our favorite things about it.
It's 80% of it for me.
Yeah.
Training the dogs, breeding the dogs. I love the dog work.
Yep.
And it sounds like, a lot of what you hear from people who love the outdoors is, the primary objectives are the camaraderie.
Oh, yeah.
The work with the dog, and really the shooting of a duck is tertiary at best.
Yeah. Besides that, we like to eat them.
Correct.
I have a great respect for everything that I hunt. But when I'm cleaning a duck and I'm looking at it and I see how beautiful it is, I'm really amazed by it, and honestly can tear up a little bit sometimes just watching what's going on. But then when I start eating them, I kind of forget about that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. All right, and earlier you were talking, so bow hunting has become something for you here recently also.
Well, so that was actually a long time ago. I started deer hunting before I started duck hunting. And then very quickly started bow hunting because I just love sitting quietly by myself. And then Allison invited me to duck hunt with the girls. And the first time, like Lila referenced earlier, paddling out in the dark, because Allison wants no lights. So I'm paddling out in the dark with a group of women, and I'm like, what am I doing? And then we get out there and we line up around these cypress trees, and the sun starts coming up, and it's all girls. And it's really fun. And then there's a little bit of conversation. You don't talk a lot, but there's a little bit of conversation and camaraderie. Some of us don't talk a lot.
Oh, there's a lot of conversation.
Yeah, I saw the video that Scooter did with you guys on Mississippi Outdoors, and There was a little bit of conversation and
I have
storytelling.
to whistle. And if I whistle, that means be quiet.
Right.
Or if I blow the duck call, or if Allison blows the duck call, it's time to be quiet.
Yeah.
We don't waste our breath blowing the duck call
For no reason.
for no reason.
Right.
So-
Exactly.
And I think that's the only time we ever have a little,
Yeah. Like get serious and game face.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
because there's lots of talking.
Have you ever had the experience of, let's say, a guy or a group of guys kind of like, do you know what you're doing? Are you sure you don't need my help? You ever get that?
Oh yeah, we did have a funny story about a guy came in and he couldn't believe that we were going out, and he asked us, who shoots, who takes you, who blows the call, who goes gets the duck. We actually told him that we could vote, and
Get the reminder.
yeah.
Did he ask? He asked.
And
one of y'all.
then he went out in his Go Devil, and we canoed out, and he got a hole in his waders and had to come back out. And if we get a hole in our waders, we're pretty much standing there.
You're not going in. You're not going to be the first one to leave.
How about that? So there's sort of a toughness code that goes along with being a swamp witch as well.
We're all pretty tough.
I was hunting with Lynn Bussey one day, and she literally was purple because she had a hole in her waders. There's a kind of a side story to that. She was not going to be the first one to leave.
Right.
It was really cold.
Yeah.
She wasn't leaving.
It's just fascinating to me. And I think, too, like for a lot of people that hear this, there may be some jealousy, envy, because not everybody has that kind of a group of friends that you stick together and you go together over those many years. It's a really unique thing, I think.
It is, and it's a shame that we can't. I've got a lot of girlfriends that would just do anything to be able to come and hunt with the swamp witches. But I'm like, it's just,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm not, let's go duck hunt somewhere else. Let's go to buy a duck hunt at a Ducks Unlimited banquet. I do that all the time. I buy 2 or 3, as many as they offer. People get mad at me at the DU events because I buy the duck hunts. Because we had a duck hunt in place. My husband and I did on the Natchez Trace. I said, when we sell this, we just didn't have time to do it. I was horse showing, and then we had our daughter, and I said, I'm going to buy every duck hunt I see that is available to me at every event we go to. So.
As we referenced the talking earlier,
Yeah.
6 women in a duck blind is plenty.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
One of the stories I heard on the Mississippi Outdoors television show is something about $1 million duck or $1 million mallard. Do you guys know that story?
That was Susan, right? They were y'all. That was that the suit shoes.
Oh,
shoot
Scooter
Susan,
says that was
shoot.
Su-
Yeah.
Yeah, shoot
yeah.
Susan.
Oh,
Shoot.
yeah.
It was one of those that paid
That
for
was-
duck hunts, I think.
Yeah, that was with Philip Bowman up in Clarksdale, and we were all. This mallard came in, and I could hear bang bang, bang bang, bang bang, bang bang, bang bang, and I'm counting, and I know Susan has not shot yet, and this thing is straight
It's
up
still flying.
above us, and she is a very good shot at a straight shot, and I said, "Shoot, Susan, shoot." And she shot, and that thing came down, and it was that's right. That was the $1 million
The $1
mallard.
million mallard.
Some days it's the lone mallard. I mean, but if you don't go, you won't get the lone mallard. So
Yeah.
Susan and I were sitting up on this what do you call that? A big old wood pile in Clarksdale, and Allison said, shoot whatever, if you see a pig or a deer or whatever. I thought, we're not going to shoot anything up here. We're sitting there back to back, and I lit up a cigarette, and Susan's like, "You are not smoking on this 100-year-old wood pile." And I said, "Yeah, this is just a snipe hunt." And she's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "What's that? What's that over there? Is that Allison's pony?" Allison had a little black pony. and she looked, she goes, I think that's a pig. I get my binoculars. I'm like, oh my gosh, it is a pig. And I just borrowed my brother-in-law's 44, and she had a German Mauser.
Antique.
Yeah, from World War II.
Really? Wow.
So I said, okay, you ready? She's like, yeah. I'm like, on the count of 3. I think I had, how many shots does a 44 hold? I think I shot like 14 times. I'm just racking it. Bang, bang, bang. I got it in the knee and in back here. And of course she's not shooting. So I've unloaded the magazine and I'm like, shoot, Susan, shoot. And she just, boom. And I mean, drops that pig.
Yeah. One shot.
Steel
One
sights.
Mm-hmm.
No scope. Steel
No
sights.
scope.
Steel sights.
How far? Estimate?
75, 80 yards.
Okay.
She's a good shot. She's a choosy shooter.
And it's back, it's back
Sounds
when
like
we
it.
didn't have cell phones. We had walkie-talkies in our walkie-talkies because they were hunting. I think it was Lynn and Lee and Allison there. And I'm like, Susan, just don't say one thing. Just let them over there be.
Let them guess.
And then after dark, they showed up, and then Susan and I had loaded this stinky big boar. I mean, it was so stinky. We rolled it on both of the rifles. This is where my husband gets mad at me. And picked the rifle up and put it on that four-wheeler.
How about that? That's
Gotta
great.
be resourceful.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, and again, I mean, I can't help but think about, you know, there's so many women who they just haven't had that kind of experience in their life. It's unique in a good way, wouldn't you say? The experiences that you've had together.
Yeah. It's thanks to my mom. My mom.
Okay, so she introduced you.
Yeah, she and her cousin had a duck camp in South Louisiana, and she invited families with their children. And we had lots of other friends that had duck camps down there. The Lake Arthur Gun Club, which is a famous Forest Square, lots of big girls never got invited. And my mom got invited, but not until my older life did I get invited to a couple of them. But my mom always included the children, and that was a good thing. So.
Yeah.
But I would love for more people to get to know the outdoors. And I think there's opportunities even without your boyfriend or your dad or your, you know.
Sure. In that regard, if someone's listening, she's always been on the fence. Maybe she has, you know, a husband, sons, brothers, dads, they went, but they've always been on the fence, hadn't really done it. What would your message be about maybe just getting started? What would your advice be?
You know, I just think that a lot more men are giving girls opportunities to hunt. Yeah. I really do. I know we have a club in Holmes County, Mississippi, and there are probably more little girls than little boys. And the dads are really good about taking the little girls out. And I like to take little girls too. I think it's really fun for them to go out and be introduced and to say to them, yeah, you can totally do this. That's not really the question you asked.
Well, no, that's fine, because really you guys are so much like so many people that we've talked to on the show from, you know, all walks, all manner of the profession, whether it's hobby or pro. There's somebody in their life usually at a very young age. You mentioned your mother, and that introduction by someone you look up to is really what starts it. And that's why when I asked the question, I thought, well, as an adult, it's really hard to just up and get started as an adult.
Like go on hikes, go to the parks. We have so many wonderful parks in this country. Go hiking, go exploring, read some books, you know, read some magazines, go to a gun club, get
you a horse and go fox hunting.
Yeah.
What's that like? Describe that for me. Have you been?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's how it all started for me, too, is I started fox hunting with Allison, and then conversation led to that I also like to hunt. And she goes, well, do you duck hunt? I was like, well, I mean, I've been, but not really. Yeah. And so she's like, oh, well, you're going. So, I mean, but it started with me fox hunting as well. and it's really fun. There's a lot of adrenaline, and for me, there's a little less adrenaline than there used to be. I've demoted myself from first flight to second or third flight.
Okay.
I don't bounce as well as I used to, so coming off is not as much fun as it used to be. But fox hunting is awesome, and you know that is a place where young girls are really brought along. But we have several little girls that fox hunt with us right now with Chulahoma hounds, and
Allison has been wonderful about
she has
encouraging kids to ride horses and fox hunt. And
lending her horses to people that don't have their own horse, which is how I started. I told my husband, I'm just going to ride her horses. And then I was like, well, can I have a trailer? I'm just going to pull her horses. Well, now I have 2 trailers and 2 horses. So anyway.
The hobby grew.
The hobby grew a little bit, yep.
That's really neat. So fox hunting, horseback, duck hunting, deer hunting, fishing. Y'all do all those things together throughout the year.
And we just got back from Kenya on a horseback safari for how many days?
It was like a 2-week trip, but we spent 6 or 7 nights out in the Masai Mara, which was pretty awesome, intense.
Like camping out?
Yeah. Yep.
How many on the trip, you guys?
5 of us, 5 witches.
4.
4 witches.
4 witches and some extra girls that love to do what we love to do, bringing people along.
For most of a week, camping out in
Got
Africa.
charged by everything. Elephant, buffalo.
Yep.
Charged by an elephant.
Hippos.
Yeah,
We had
hippo.
a bull, a cow elephant was with her babies. And we were told what to do. In fact, we were told if an elephant charges you, run. If a lion charges you, stand your ground. A lion just thinks that's fun and he would enjoy you as a snack. An elephant's like, you better get the heck out. So we, second afternoon, a cow elephant with 2 babies, different sizes, turned and started charging, and we got the call to get out, and all I had to do was nudge my horse. We were back in Nairobi almost. We just had to hold on.
Okay, hold on, don't fall off.
Exactly. Yep. It was exhilarating for sure.
On horseback in Africa,
horseback.
charged by a mama elephant. Did you ever get charged by anything else? You mentioned
We had some interesting
A buffalo?
encounters. Yeah, buffalo.
okay, buffalo.
Buffalo, and
What were the instructions there?
same thing.
Same thing. Let the guide stay between you, and we were like, that's not going to be a problem. We will totally stay on the other side of you. So
Sure.
you go first.
And they have this big whip, and they crack it on their horse, and it sounds like a rifle going off.
It does.
Okay.
Because there are no guns in Kenya.
They don't carry guns, just this whip.
Just a whip.
Yeah. So it's pretty intense.
Pretty intense, I would think
Yeah.
would be an understatement.
And then we came up onto a pride of lions with 5 or 6 cubs. And the cubs started creeping,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Again, we were prey.
And, you know, the horses were pretty much, you know, standing there going, you know,
Yeah.
but we're not supposed to go anywhere,
Supposed to stand your ground if it's lions.
Yep, stand your ground.
which is
Because-
hard for me to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was good as long as it was just the little ones. If the big ones had started coming toward us, that would have been a little more interesting. We did do river crossings with hippopotamus in the water.
I've always heard that that's the real danger there in terms of actual incidents with humans.
More people are killed by hippos each year on the continent of Africa than any other animal.
Okay.
So
And on the safari, it was a hunt. You were there to hunt, or you were just there to see?
sightseeing.
Okay.
Yeah. Game drives on
Oh, it
horses.
was Lynn Bussey, Susan Williams, and you and myself.
Right.
The adventures, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it, though, just how cool. It's a movie. I don't know if y'all realize it's a book. Your story, The Swamp Witches, is a book and a movie, because we could stay here another hour and I would barely be scratching the surface of pulling stories out of you. It's incredible.
Well, I think that Duck Dynasty people approached Allison before they approached Duck Dynasty.
Is that right? The television show. And you have done a good job. We've got a photo album here. Y'all have done a good job of documenting it as well.
Yeah, there's a great quail shoot that we went on horseback in Georgia a couple years back that was so much fun. And it's just, you know, fun getting together, and we do everything. And we have fun doing everything together. from the wake up call to the last drink at night.
Some of the stories we won't tell you.
Yeah, sure. Some of them have to be kept private. You mentioned that she was approached about the TV show. I wonder why that didn't come to fruition.
I think that she's not big into our families being interrupted like that. So
Well,
she should be sitting here instead of me. But she has.
Instead of me.
Well, she definitely has done some.
She does podcasts fairly regularly, and then her husband's written a couple books, and he does podcasts, and they're really outdoorsmen. And that's another. We do sometimes allow our husbands to come along. They're kind of fun too.
Yeah, they are.
Every now
they
and then.
are.
Yeah, and they've gotten to be friends with each other, which is fun.
Yeah.
To have that, but we still get to go on our own some.
So the husbands didn't necessarily know each other prior, like they met each other through
Correct.
your group. That's really neat.
And we get together, quite often.
As often as possible.
I put that together a race syndicate, and so a lot of them are part of my racehorse syndicate.
Yeah.
And
Again,
and they're very intelligent people, so I don't know why they'd want to.
why they would do that. Is that a compliment? Like a little backhanded compliment there. Yeah. That's great. I think a lot of people listening might be thinking, okay, do they work, or retired? What do they do when they're not in a duck blind or on horseback? What are you doing?
Well, Susan and Allison are.
They work pretty full time.
Pretty
They
full
do.
time.
Yeah. Allison does insurance, and Susan is in the housewares.
Home and
anyway. And
she and her husband started Country Originals, but it's called Callaloo now.
Hallelujah. Yeah. So they travel the world for their work.
Okay. So there is life outside of hunting and getting together as swamp witches. Yeah.
I was in full-time show jumping.
Okay.
I just retired.
Just retired. How many years did you do that?
35 years.
Wow. Incredible.
Yep.
Are there many 35-year careers in that sport? I wouldn't think.
I don't know.
No. I would think that's very rare. Just incredible. So, like I said, it's really unique. It's a book. It's a movie. What if you were approached now? What if somebody came to you now and said, we're going to follow you with cameras, or we want to make this into a TV show, or we're going to turn this into a brand? I wonder what your reaction would be.
I don't know. I think this kind of thing is fun every once in a while, and I'm obviously very new, but I don't know. Yeah. Our privacy is kind of fun too, like having our own stories and our own inside jokes and things that
they wouldn't be able to keep up with.
No,
me.
It would be impossible.
Wouldn't be able to keep up.
No,
they wouldn't get the whole story.
No. It's like pack, unpack, change marina. Pack, unpack, change marina.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it also sounds like for you, you've got this really cool, real thing. There's nothing fake about it. And you just kind of enjoy that. You just want to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned tennis.
That's a long time ago for me. I started bow hunting probably, early 2000s, and gave up tennis. I loved my tennis team. That was fun too, but this is way more fun. So yeah. I've always liked being outside. I mean, being outside, I used to get in trouble because I could never get home on time because I just didn't want to go in. And I usually came home without my shoes. There's no telling. Once I found these activities to do outside, then I really began to enjoy it.
Enjoy that more.
Yeah. Outside. Tennis is fun too, but shoulders can't do things that they need
all
to
tennis courts look alike.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's interesting you say that. We talked with Randy Watkins, former PGA Tour golfer, and he mentioned that he was comparing sort of parallel with hunting and outdoor things that he enjoys with golf. He said, because, every golf course is different. Every hole is totally different. They're all snowflakes. Same thing with where you hunt. Same thing with where you fish. And he said, I didn't really do tennis because every tennis court's the same. It's interesting that y'all had the same observation.
Yeah.
Lynn Bussey and I play golf together.
Yeah. And Susan plays sometimes.
Okay, so now we got golf. So every kind of hunting you can do, fishing, safaris on horseback, Okay, and golf as well.
Yeah. And legit safaris too. I think every one of us has been on a hunting safari at least once, which is pretty fun.
So what's next? If all those things have already been check marks, what's out there that you haven't done together as a group that you might really want to do? Is there anything left?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to Argentina in May, next year, May. And then I think we've talked about, I don't know how much we've talked everybody into it, but I think definitely another horseback trip somewhere abroad and or in the United States. I think, a cattle drive has been mentioned,
Right.
which would be really fun. We went on a horseback camping trip in 2020 in the Colorado mountains, which was really fun. I'd like to extend that. Then my husband and I went back to the same place and did a 6-night horseback elk hunt. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Is that right?
Yeah.
My husband and I were supposed to join them, but the
tags got messed up.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how about that? You mentioned the camping in Colorado. I thought about the movie City Slickers. You remember that movie?
Oh, yeah,
With
that's
the-
funny.
Billy Crystal, that kind of thing. Take a
Yeah.
group out and
Yep.
come back.
Teach us how to do it.
Yeah, looking for
Lila
curly's
says
gold.
that's going to be your next career, roping.
Okay.
My husband and I just got back from Braze Island, South Carolina, yesterday, and did a pheasant tower shoot.
Wow.
So I got to hunt my dog doing that, and shot probably about 16, 17 pheasants, and she was just an excellent. She got all of them. And there was this guy next to me hollering at his dog. But that's one great aspect, is that Allison and I have brought along really nice retrieving dogs.
As long as you're not asking her to pick up a crow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That may
There's
or
a
may
story
not
behind
happen.
that somewhere.
There is. So we did a duck hunt. It was in December in Arkansas, and this guy had hundreds of ducks. And so we're like, okay, so we're all pumped up. And Susan, Lynn, Lila, and I were there, and we're invading this group of 5 guys that are hunting.
I'm sure they're like,
And there was one mallard. The poor guy that took us was so distraught. He was like, y'all, please come back. So we will go back. But one mallard gets shot, and it's getting a little boring, and we're kind of standing around, and this crow comes over, poor thing, and Lila was like, got the crow. And then she sends Cece out, and Cece goes over. She's so excited, and she gets there, and she's like, she turns around and looks at Lila like, I'm so not bringing that back. And she did not.
How about that?
Yeah.
She would not retrieve this crow.
Absolutely not. Not going to bring back a crow. You've got to be kidding. She'll bring back a goose. It's about the size of her.
Right.
But not a crow.
How about that? That is really cool.
Now,
You've mentioned Allison several times. For those listening that maybe thinking, okay, tell me more about Allison. Who is that? Tell us about Allison. Because it sounds like this sort of began with her.
I don't know how I can describe Allison. She is a beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde, wild Indian. She puts on her fox hunting clothes, then she puts on her duck hunting clothes. She goes and duck hunts with her dog, shoots the limit, in her truck and trailer with her horse waiting, and then strips down into her fox hunting clothes, and her dog stays in the truck while she goes out and fox hunts.
Really? Mm-hmm. It doesn't even go back. It's all in one trip.
All in one trip.
multiple times a season. Because there's always a duck hunt on a Saturday morning. There's always a fox hunt on a Saturday morning, so she's got to do both.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's totally driven.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
She has more energy than ought to be legal.
And it sounds like y'all kind of feed off that, or the group does and has over the years.
Yeah, she has prodded me into doing stuff that I would have maybe possibly slept in. And I'm so glad that she got me up and going. You miss out on life when you sleep in.
It's true.
Sometimes we might have a little too much fun the night before, and we're like, it's raining. She's like, rain's not going to stop us. It's not. There's no lightning. So we go out, and, there's what does she say?
She says there's no inclement weather. There's just improper attire.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a great what a great maxim for a hunter.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Now, is she the one in the picture you showed me when you said she actually loves the worse the weather, the more she
That's
loves it?
Susan Williams.
Okay, so that's Susan.
Yes.
You said there's something about her that the worse the weather, the more she enjoys
Oh,
it.
yeah. She doesn't want anything easy. She wants it to be as difficult as possible.
She asked me this year, we hunted a few times in Arkansas, and that particular hunt where there was only one mallard, we got taken to the blind in the side-by-side. We stepped out 2 steps, we got into the blind, and we sat on a wooden bench. She hunted, and Susan was like, she did it. It was good. She was conversational the whole time, and then we were riding back in, and she goes, this is just too easy. So we're talking about booking a few hunts next year, and she's like, do you think they would let us just bring our canoes and our decoys, and they would just take us to the place we could put our stuff out, we could do our hunt, and then they'd come back and get us? I was like, that's not really how they do it, but we can ask them.
Or just go put us out by a tree somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? That may be one of those things that's next on the list, possibly.
Maybe. You never know. You won't get to go if you don't ask. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are here. We've talked about Susan. We talked about Allison.
And then there's Lee Bailey.
Lee Bailey.
She and her husband run salad days in Flora, the
Oh, yeah. Wow.
hydroponic lettuce. And she bought the first horse I trained off the racetrack. And that's how we became friends.
Okay.
And then she fox hunted, and the rest is history.
Right.
And Lynn Bussey, her husband is the can man.
Okay.
Recycling, and Lynn is a full-time organizer, mother, grandparent of 7,
Yeah, she has as much energy as Allison.
and gets invited to too many weddings. She would duck hunt and probably play more in the outdoors,
Yep.
which growing up, I always knew, as even a 10-year-old, that you do not get married during hunting season.
See, and I'd always heard, never a wedding on a fall Saturday because of football. So now if we include hunting season, now we're narrowing it down
I know.
Yeah.
for wedding season.
Yeah, then there's turkey season. And then
Right. I didn't even ask you about turkey hunting.
oh, yeah. Definitely turkey hunting.
I'm the only witch that I've killed a turkey, but I'm not going to go out there and do it myself. But
Okay.
everybody else goes, and
I love it.
they love it.
I was told for years. Allison got me into that, too. I mean, to come to think of it, we hunted together for many, many years. I got my first 2 turkeys with Allison. So much fun.
Yeah.
And then I got my next 2 by myself, which was kind of cool. And then I had a drought, and I finally got another one by myself. I've only shot 5, but I've been a lot more than 5 times.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the calling and everything, you've learned all of that.
Yep.
How cool. There's an element of, I guess having to obviously be still, be quiet. That doesn't always, pertain to everyone. Like some folks have a harder time with the being still and being quiet than others. Was that a challenge for you? Would it be a challenge for you?
Oh, no.
No?
For years, I've been driving the witches, most of them, to Clarksdale. And I just drive and listen. Occasionally, they'll ask, "How are you, Lila?" And if I hesitate, no. It's like, okay,
You better get in when you have the opportunity.
There are a lot of words spoken.
There are a lot.
That's great.
There's a lot.
I
But it's
bet.
great, because we're just all catching up and so excited. And
Yeah. Well, I think, again, it's just an observation outside looking in, getting to meet y'all. It just has the look of something that is so organic and real and not contrived at all. Like the Lord's got his hand on getting y'all together and the time that you have together. It's really a cool thing. And I think maybe the coolest thing about it is that you guys recognize how cool it is, what you have.
And you wonder, like you said, how do you think people can get girls
Yeah.
in particular, maybe have a name? I guess it's kind of like a sorority or a fraternity. Have a name. Like we're getting together in Clinton, the WW Wilderness Walkers, and we're starting to walk, and it's guys and girls. And we have property. and all of us have property, so we take turns going. So, maybe if you do put a name on it, then you'll go and, find out more about something.
Get out there.
Do those girls at Providence still hunt the grits or whatever they?
Yeah, that disbanded. I don't know why it disbanded. I don't know, some national something happened with
They
it.
always wanted me to be a part of it, and I'm like, I just not good at shooting clay pigeons. I like to shoot things that bleed.
It's a little too fake. It's just not real enough.
We did go one day,
And my dog doesn't retrieve those things
no,
real
your
well.
dog will not retrieve those. But your daughter is very good at
Yes.
shooting clay pigeons.
She's actually going to the state shoot this weekend. Her team qualified for her school, and we're excited.
That's fantastic.
Up near what is that shooting place up north?
Kyber?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. In the shooting sports, I saw some numbers. I will not be able to quote them off the top of my head exactly, but the sanctioned MHSAA shooting sports and the archery competition here, the numbers of kids in Mississippi that participate in that is through the roof.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot more than are participating in even stuff like the championships for football and other things, which kind of gives you a little, maybe a little glimpse. We hear a lot of bad news and bad trends, and
Right.
But for the youth, that's a positive trend. Maybe a bright future.
Especially archery, I hear.
Absolutely, thousands of kids involved in those archery championships. It's really neat. Well, for you guys, thanks so much for coming and talking to us, letting us kind of get a little bit of a glimpse into your world and learn a little bit more about the Swamp Witches and the group that is, with a lot of stuff left on the list to do, it sounds like.
That's right. Thanks for having us.
A lot of more good times to be had.
That's right.
Sure.
We've already signed up for more hunts next year.
And the good news about that is that means between now and next year, when we have you back on the show, we'll have a whole new set of stories. And hopefully, again, get away from the elephant.
Right.
And stand your ground when the lion charges.
That's right.
Matter of fact, you should probably, when you write a book, this is just a suggestion, but Swamp Witches and subtitle, Stand Your Ground When the Lion Charges. It's just a suggestion. It's pretty good. Yeah. It might work. Julie, Wooley, thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Lila, Sessums, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for introducing us to the Swamp Witches. Thanks for listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast, and we'll see you outdoors.